Hello, and welcome to the IAP Inspector, where we look at free-to-play games monetization from the player's perspective. So this week we're looking at BattleHand, which is a new release from another place, which is a UK-based studio, sort of comprised of some people credited with some of the Fable games, and published by Kongreate. So it's a fantasy-themed card battler sort of thing you've seen many times before on the App Store, nothing new there. But so in terms of this series, ones we've covered, and has been covered a lot on this channel by John, is Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which we all really enjoyed. So in terms of recent times, it's probably the most comparable sort of game to it. So I'll start off just by showing you a bit of gameplay. Go to one I've already completed, and go auto battle. So you'll notice here the biggest difference is from Galaxy of Heroes was that allowed you to play auto straight away. So you could power your way through battles just by letting them play themselves, basically. But here there's a much more sort of Western approach in that you have to sort of work for it. You have to beat a dungeon first before you're allowed to play it automatically. So it becomes a way of getting quick resources, but it's also kind of like a reward. Whereas in Galaxy of Heroes, that was essentially the way, if you chose, and I don't see why anyone would choose not to. Essentially the way you could just play the game from the start. So that's a big sort of departure. So we'll just power through this. We're done here. Collect some spoils. So you get the general idea of what the gameplay is like. All very nice art and very sort of charming little animations. You didn't see there because I survived, but I particularly like the death animation where they sort of neatly pirouette into a coffin and just collapse, and it's got a sort of nice sort of sense of humour to it, the art style and animations and things. So there's a lot more lot more of a manual approach here, which means that it's more focused on gameplay, which could be said in a negative way to detract from the metagame, which obviously with Galaxy of Heroes allowing you to autoplay from the start, it kind of really pared back its focus and allowed you to focus entirely on the sort of card collection and upgrading and crafting, all that sort of thing. Which obviously this has all of those features, but it's sort of detracted from by the amount of time you'll be required to spend in battles when you're performing them yourself. That one went through very quickly because autoplay you can speed up, and you can speed up in general battles as well, but it only speeds up the enemy animation, and it only moves as fast as your brain works, essentially, which in my case is not very fast, as you can tell. But yeah, so we'll just have a look at some of the currencies up from the left. You've got keys, which is the game's energy system, which is quite not very restricted, but more restrictive than you'd like, I found. Then you've got gold, which is the soft currency, and gems, which is the hard currency. So if you look at gems here, some other interesting things they're doing here. So move my face out of the way. There's a gem, what they call a gem dropper, which is what we've seen a few times, recent times, is the almost subscription style service, which gives you gems daily for each time you return. It's a way of making sure people come back, basically a retention mechanic. But in this case, I just think it's too expensive to serve that purpose, because I think if anyone was looking at spending that amount of money, which is I think would translate to the $13.99 tier in the US, I think it's a lot of money to pay for a first purchase, and maybe that's the approach here. But I think if you were willing to spend that amount of money, then you would presumably be a dedicated player who would be coming back anyway. So the idea of it as a retention system of making sure people come back, I'm not sure it serves as good a purpose as, say, Colopal Rune Story or even Galaxy Heroes, which lures you on with a low price, and you'd almost be stupid not to get it at that price. Like, price itself so low that it's, you just think it's a sensible decision to make, and then you come back daily where you might not have otherwise. I'm not sure this is priced at that level, so maybe a little too expensive. But as for the others, there's also a neat buy one get one free system where you get doubled the number of gems that is advertised here for the first time you buy at any one level. So you can see I've already bought the 250 gem bag. So that means the buy one get one free offer is no longer there. So that's quite a neat system, because it means if I was going to spend again, it would sort of push me towards the higher priced items, because they're the ones where the offer still applies. So I think that's quite a clever system. But going back, one of the most, I'm not sure if it would show here, I'll show you what it's like to buy things. So you have card packs, which are the bread and butter of it essentially, and material packs, and materials are applied to cards to make them more powerful essentially, as part of the sort of fusing and upgrading process. So let's just get a silver material pack, because I can't afford much at this time. Yep. And this is what it looks like when you get a new thing. Being able to swipe through them is quite pleasant. And yeah, the bonus items, that's what I particularly like. So this may seem like a small thing, but I think it's actually quite significant in context, is that these bonus items aren't just given away with no feedback. When you're given them first, it's established the shopkeeper, who is like a character in his own right, which is the first time I've seen that, is supposedly on your side, supports your cause, and so is giving you these bonus items to like show his support for you, which I think is really clever. It's a tiny incidental detail, and a lot of people might not even notice it, so maybe it's not as significant as I think. But someone who sort of is interested in sort of the cohesion between game mechanics and narrative and things like that, I've never seen it done before when it comes to monetization. The idea of almost humanising the process of making the shopkeeper an actual character, and of having what is essentially a reciprocity system, where there's a reciprocal relationship established between the game and the player, where they give you things, and it's in the long term it's psychologically makes you more likely to spend. We've seen that lots of times, but for them to make this process sort of embed it within the game world almost by having this character who is willing to give you things because he supports your character. And they're also like neat little touches, like just stupid throwaway comments that you make sometimes, and this positioning of the shopkeeper within it I think is super smart. And yeah, you might not notice it or think it's something substantial, but I think I think there's something in it, in the idea of I think it's a lot easier to establish a reciprocal relationship with a player. With a player and a character, rather than a player and a sort of faceless corporation. I think it's a smart move, and something I'm interested in seeing more of, purely from like a game design's perspective. It's where that sort of intersects with monetization, which I think is really interesting. But otherwise, fairly standard. I've shown you the currencies. So slight overpricing, slight issues with the energy system, but yeah, some really neat ideas in there. So yeah, I'd definitely recommend checking it out. If you read the full article, I didn't give it the full approved rating, which is the highest we have on the IAP Inspector on pocketgamer.biz, but I did give it a pass, and I did pass it, and I sort of gave it as generous write-up as I could, because I think it's a really interesting, really good game, and yeah, some really neat ideas in there. Alright, thank you very much for watching, and yeah, if you want to read the full article, it's in the description. Yeah, see you next time.